All right, let's get talking. How Nigerians or Nigeria was involved in the slave trade and not involved in the slave trade at the same time. Right now, what you're looking at is an image of a map of what was known as the Royal Niger Company, British Empire, the Royal Niger Company from Mayer's Lexicon, 1895. Okay, it says 7 10 28 slash 10 29. I don't know exactly what those numbers are. They're not dates, but um. So this is the British company that took over Nigeria, or took over what would later become Nigeria in the 1800s. Okay, now going back, I'll have to explain or show what the Royal Niger Company was. Royal Niger Company. And try to find something other than Wikipedia. Encyclopedia.com. I guess should be okay. It says, um, start reading. See if I can get to where it starts. Gives you the trying to find where I should start reading at, because it's a lot of stuff. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Boy, I don't have to give you. Well, anyways, the Royal Niger Company became a foundation segment of the Atlantic world in the beginning decades of the 16th century. Oh, I'm sorry. The Niger Delta became a foundation of the Atlantic world in the beginning decades of the 16th century, when pioneering Portuguese sailors explored its complex rivers and creeks along with other regions of the African continent at about the same time as Christopher Columbus's discoveries opened up the Americas to world commerce. The Portuguese dominated trade between Niger Delta, Europe, and the Americas for the entire century, trading on tropical food items from Africa and America: peppers, yams, cassava, sugar, and tobacco, and industrial goods from Europe: gin, gunpowder, cloves, and copper and iron tools. The Portuguese also pioneered in slave trade from the African Atlantic, including Niger Delta. In addition, they introduced agricultural plants: cassava, cocoa, yam, sugar from tropical America to tropical African habitats, while exporting such native Niger Delta plants as plantain and yams to tropical America. In the 17th century, other European nations joined in the Atlantic trade. With resources of the Industrial Revolution, England steadily gained considerable advantage in European competition for trade from Niger Delta. British efforts to abolish British efforts to abolish the slave trade from 1807 onwards ushered into the region a contentious new distinction between illegal slave trade and legitimate trade in agricultural produce and natural raw products. Abolition of the slave trade effectively ended the era of Portuguese dominance of Niger Delta, now replaced by British ascendancy. Legitimate trade brought many European companies into Niger Delta commerce and changed its business dynamics in the 19th century. Slave trade had entailed necessary participation by Atlantic coastal chieftains as middlemen. Legitimate trade rendered their role problematic. With expansion of legitimate trade, European contacts were pushed beyond the Atlantic coast into the Niger River's inland basin. This new pattern of trade initially resulted in disorder and inefficiencies among competing European companies. Such circumstances prompted the British businessman Sir George Goldie, 1846 to 1925, to initiate negotiations that led to the consolidation of several small British and European companies into United Africa Company, UAC, in 1879. UAC's fortunes improved rapidly as a consequence of the Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885, and the ensuing European scramble for African territories. Goldie's UAC was chartered as the Royal Niger Company, RNC, by the British government in 1886 with a mandate and concessionary powers to operate in all the territory of the basin of the Niger. The Royal Niger Company combined the trading functions of its predecessor, UAC, with the role of a British surrogate imperial power as a trading company. The RNC established pioneering trading posts in the upper Niger Delta, beyond the Atlantic coast in which Europeans did business for centuries, and in Niger's inland basin, the RNC had headquarters on the Niger, first at Asaba and later at Lokoja. Its trading prowess opened up the territories of several communities and nations with which European trade had previously been only indirect, including the Urhobo, Ikwani, Ibibio, and Igbo in Niger Delta. The RNC's trading relations also reached Muslim communities on the Niger and its tributaries in what is modern northern Nigeria. The Royal Niger Company's imperial activities were of two types. First, it made treaties with native chieftains. These pro forma agreements required signatory chiefs to declare, "We, the unsigned chiefs, cede to the Royal Niger Company forever the whole of our territory in exchange for the RNC's promise to protect the said chiefs and pay monetary compensation for the RNC's use of their land." The RNC had a military force for enforcing its imperial ventures, occasionally resorting to menacing tactics of gunboat diplomacy. Second, the RNC staved off rival claims of colonial territories by other European powers, thus, for instance, forestalling German and French claims in Sokoto and Borgu, respectively, 1894, and claims in Sokoto and Borgu, respectively, in 1894. The RNC is credited with acquiring territories that eventually constituted the British colonies of southern Nigeria and northern Nigeria, for which reason some colonial historians dub Goldie, the RNC's chieftain, the father of modern Nigeria. Okay, so basically, Nigeria was created by Europeans as basically it was pretty much a corporation. Okay, so then what happened later on is you had this lady, Flora and she literally was a lady because she was British and that she had the title of lady. It says Flora Shaw. If it over opens up, come on. Let's see, let's go up here. The name Nigeria was first suggested in a special article published in the Times on January 8th, 1897. The article, in accordance with the traditions of the newspaper, was published anonymously. but it was in fact written by Flora Shaw, who spent 8 years in Printing House Square as an expert on colonial affairs. Later in 1902, she married Frederick Lugard, the High Commissioner of the Northern Nigerian Protectorate. Okay, so we will have to explain what a protectorate is. So we're going to see Protector, protectorate. A state that is controlled and protected by another. Panama was juridically a protectorate of the United States. The position or a period of office of a protector, usually that in England of Oliver and Richard Cromwell. So, let's see, what is a protectorate in imperialism? A protectorate is when a country is able to govern itself through its own internal government, but is still controlled by an outside power. Local government officials are allowed to remain in power, but the style of government is based on European structure. Okay, so you had something called the Oil River Protectorate. British Protectorate, oil rivers, and this was in the southern part of what is now Nigeria. There were actually two Nigerias. A northern and a southern, and these two Nigerias, were put together into one in 1914. Just want to be able to show you this map. Okay, so this is showing the Royal Niger Company, 1836 between 1836 and 1900. This is the Niger Coast Protectorate, and this is the Oil Rivers Protectorate, and these were combined together. There's Lagos. Lagos originally was part of the Gold Coast, which now is Ghana, and you also had uh, Yoruba land, but these different areas were actually separate, considered separate areas of operation and would have been separate companies. So I will do a part two of this. So this will be all for now. Thank you.